Hello there and welcome to my review of The Order 1886. It was a game made by Ready at Dawn and it was released quite a few years ago now in February of 2015. It's now early 2018, so that's actually over 3 years ago. So this is a bit of a retrospective review. Now when this game first came out, a lot of people got really excited about it because visually it's one of the first games that really showcased what the PS4 was capable of. It's actually set in Victorian London and it's kind of an alternate reality where there are still knights of the round table protecting us from vampires and werewolves. Now the story is actually quite good, the characters are quite good, the acting is very good, the voice acting, well, I couldn't really fault it. This game turned out to be very linear. A lot of people were hoping that it would be an open world style game where they could roam around exploring Victorian London as they wanted. The levels are actually well designed. It does feel like a real place you're exploring. The designers have done a lot of research looking into Victorian construction, and even the different weapons and everything they use have a kind of steampunk feel to them. In fact, the whole game is very steampunk. And the weapons are really cool, really well designed. Here's a look at the crossbow. As you can see, it looks fantastic. The concept artists working on this game are really top notch. If you look at the texturing and the modelling work, it is absolutely top notch. It hasn't been surpassed. Even games like Horizon Zero Dawn and Uncharted 4, which visually are more stunning, that have obviously much newer and better game engines, don't really outshine The Order in terms of texturing and modelling work. I think the people that created this game should be really proud of what they achieved in terms of the visuals. Now the people making this game have been accused of indulging their cinematic tendencies or leanings. It's almost as if they really wanted to make a film rather than a game in many ways. If you look at the letterboxing, it's quite severe. It does obviously make it look more cinematic, but it did really feel really restrictive, and I kept on thinking I wanted to go into the settings and turn on full screen mode, but you can't do that. And also there's a heavy grain effect that they've applied. Again, it's all for that cinematic look. And when it comes to the actual gameplay, you can't go off and explore. You can look around London, there's some fantastic views. I found myself looking across the city, just stopping and in awe of what they've done. It just looks amazing. You can see horses and carts going down roads in the distance. You can see chimneys putting out smoke. You can see cranes moving in the distance. And it just looks amazing, and it makes it even more frustrating because you want to go and explore and you can't because it's very linear. There is a bit of verticality to the levels. You can actually jump up and grasp onto ledges, so there is a bit of going up and down different flights of stairs, climbing in and out of windows on different floors, and there's some really creative environments you go to. There's the hot air balloon, as you can see, it looks absolutely amazing. There's a ship you actually have to sort of travel through, and it is incredible what they've done with that linear format. As long as you accept it's a very linear game, then you're not going to be too disappointed. With regard to combat, it's a cover-based shooter, so you go along and then you might have to take cover, kill a few enemies, go along a bit further, duck down, take cover, pop out, shoot an enemy, and that's really about it for combat. There are some kind of horde mode sections where you'd get to a courtyard and then you'd have waves of enemies, and eventually they'll say, oh, looks like you've killed them all, and move on to the next bits. There are guys with shotguns that try and rush you, and there are guys that try and snipe you. You can use their weapons as well. When they die, you can pick them up, shotguns. And there's some pretty crazy steampunk weapons as well. There's an electric gun that electrocutes people, and there's a gun that allows you to set people on fire. And it's good fun to use these weapons. And they do look beautiful when you pick them up. It's just admiring how wonderful they look. And there's a lot of walking around between sections, and a lot of people accuse this game of being like a walking simulator, and you just walk around, look at things, pick things up. But I actually quite like that. I'm the sort of player that does like to you can't explore this game, but I'm the sort of player that likes to take my time and really take in the atmosphere, and this game is dripping with atmosphere visually and audibly. And there's some really nice little Easter eggs in there as well. I kept on just stopping and looking at things. There's a rain section where it's all raining and you're in this sort of garden, and there's these beautiful spherical glass lamps, and I just couldn't believe it. I had to stop and look at them. They're one of the best looking things I've seen in the video game, and you see the actual rain running down the glass of this spherical lamp is pretty breathtaking to look at. The amount of detail is just incredible. Now the cover-based shooting aspect of it, I'm kind of glad that it isn't too intense, that it doesn't go on for too long, just short sections of it, because it isn't that great. I don't really like cover-based shooters, full stop. And you do find yourself getting stuck on things and, you know, popping out, shooting people. It does get a bit... It doesn't really get tedious because it isn't too much of it, thankfully. But I actually enjoyed the walking around, just looking at things. But if you're the sort of player that just wants action, this is not the game for you. But if you're the sort of player that likes looking at walking around in a meticulously realised, beautifully put together environment and just enjoying the visuals, then I think there's a lot to like about The Order. I mean, I love Victorian London, and the way it's been lovingly created is pretty amazing. Now when it comes to actually fighting the vampires and the werewolves, it's always a bit disappointing because it's all very quick time based. The fights with the werewolves is pretty much like a cutscene where you just have to press circle, square, or left, right, up or down when you're told to. And I actually felt like it would be better without the quick time, because then you could just enjoy the visuals rather than looking out for what button do I press next. There are some locks you have to pick, and that's quite simplistic. It looks stunning, but really isn't that taxing. There's some power circuits that you have to overload, and again, that isn't exactly that hard to do. It's just a matter of pressing one button and then another button at the right time, and then that's pretty much it. Again, it all looks stunning. Gameplay wise, there isn't really that much skill to it. Now, this game, I think, when it first came out, was a full price game, and I can imagine people being really frustrated with it, because you get about 5 to 10 hours depending on how fast you go through it. I probably took a lot longer than 10 hours because I do like to look around at things, but if you just rush through it, you can do it in 5 hours, no problem. So for a full price game, that isn't a lot of hours of entertainment. Now, the story ultimately doesn't really go anywhere. It does kind of end abruptly. I do think that there was definitely a sequel in mind for this game. The characters are kind of well developed initially, but then they're just kind of left by the wayside, and you kind of think to yourself, well, what about this character? What about that character? What happened to them? The story just seems to stop abruptly, and it's not that satisfying, the ending. There is one sort of a last boss fight, you can say, but again, it's very quick time orientated. I suppose I'm doing it a bit of a disservice by saying it's just all quick time. You can actually move around and take swipes at the bosses. Now, you can do some silent takedowns. You can creep up on enemies and take them down with knife attacks, which is pretty cool and quite graphic as well, quite gruesome. This is definitely for more mature players. Here, I did actually find myself taking a lot of screenshots when I was playing the game because it looked so nice. Here's some of the screenshots. So if you look at this game and you think, yeah, this looks really cool, then I'd say give it a go. I mean, as long as you're not expecting too much from the actual gameplay, then you'll be fine with it. I actually really enjoyed playing it, and it was a game that I kept coming back to, so I'd do a level and then I'd go away and play other games and then come back to it. Because there isn't too much to it, you can just pick it up and come back to it, no problem. But when I actually finished the game, I kind of felt a bit disappointed because I actually did enjoy coming back to Victorian London and playing another level. So I did actually want more of it. I thought, yeah, I'd like to play more of this. Now, I actually only paid £10 for this game. I got it brand new and sealed for a tenner. So maybe that kind of limits my expectations, and maybe that's why I quite enjoyed it and didn't really have an issue with the game. Would I want all games to be like this? Definitely not. I love my open world games. I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn at the moment and absolutely loving it. But do you really want every game to be open world with extensive quest logs and side quests and skill trees? Sometimes You just want to play something a bit more linear, a bit more concentrated. You don't have to go looking around for things to do. It's all just presented to you on the plate. You just keep moving forward with the story unfolding as you go. Actually felt quite refreshing, having played a lot of open world games lately. I think it was made linear because then they could put it out quickly. I think Sony picked this game up. They saw how nice it looked, and they made it a PS4 exclusive. So I don't think Ready at Dawn own the IP to this, so we're really not going to see a sequel unless Sony want to make one. And as the game didn't actually do that well, that's probably not going to happen. But I, for one, would love another excuse to roam around in Victorian London. So hopefully, who knows, something will happen in the future and they do a game maybe that's a bit more ambitious in the gameplay department, but still with the fantastic visuals. But I think it's only really worth your time if, like me, the visuals really engage you and you're a bit of a sucker like I am for really cool graphics. Okay, so I hope I've helped you make up your mind whether or not this game's worth your time and whether you might actually like it or not. If you accept its shortcomings, then it's definitely worth spending £20 or less on this game. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.